Kate Sanderson reporting live from BBC News Canada. The three waves of feminism are widely acknowledged as movements that fought for equal political, social, and economic rights for women. But mainstream feminism tends to ignore the historic resistance of women of color to inequality. It has failed to recognize race and class as sources of inequality. Alongside feminist movements, there have been three waves of anti-racist feminism beginning in 1850. Anti-racist feminism examines how gender, race, and class have functioned to create social inequality and shape women's experiences in Canada. We constantly talk about Toronto being one of the most diverse cities in the world, as 40% of Toronto's population have reported themselves as being part of a visible minority, and Ontario as the largest population of Aboriginal persons of any province or territory. Yet, we rarely discuss the different experience people may have faced due to their race in Canada, giving the illusion that everyone shares the same common experience. Anti-racist feminism goes against the idea that women share a common experience. The first woman we have is Harshini Lakshmi, who will be talking about her experiences and struggles as a South Asian woman.
My name is Harshini Lakshmi, and I am South Asian. I immigrated to Canada in 1970. I had to make great sacrifices to immigrate. I had to leave my home, my family, and everything I knew back in India. Because of immigration policies, it was easier for South Asian men to immigrate into Canada because they were seen as the productive ones. South Asian women were only viewed as dependent wives, regardless of their education or job experience. Since I immigrated before 1974, I had to be listed as a dependent under my husband because South Asian women could not be the principal applicant, which made me legally and financially dependent on him. Settlement services, like language training, were also only available for the head of the household, for males. But once I arrived, the first thing I did when I came to Canada was apply for research positions. I had a master's in biochemistry from the University of Calcutta in West Bengal, but I kept getting declined everywhere I applied to. I had more experience as a research scientist than many of the other applicants, but no one took me seriously. Many South Asian men were getting jobs at that time, but because I was South Asian and a woman, I was stereotyped as passive, submissive, and illiterate. My experience and credentials were completely devalued. Eventually, I found work in a garment factory. The conditions were terrible. There were few benefits, and I was earning minimum wage, where the work was monotonous and labor-intensive. I became politically active and began fighting for the organization of labor unions to help protect us from ill treatment by our employer. When I did get a job as a biochemistry research assistant at a university, I was constantly looked at as an outsider. Outside of work, I would often wear a sari, and when I would see one of my coworkers at the grocery store or at the mall, they would act like they didn't know me. But if I was dressed in a suit, they would surely say hi. My daughter even tells me that she's viewed as an immigrant even though she was born in Canada. Today, I'm retired with a family, but being a woman, an immigrant, and South Asian has affected my path to where I am today.
Next guest speaking about her experiences and struggles as a Japanese-Canadian woman is Hayumi Hashimoto.
And shortly after Japan's entry into World War II, all Japanese Canadians, such as myself and family, including my husband and 2 young children, were removed from our West Coast home and were not allowed to return until we were given permission to. Our hardships began when the War Measures Act came into effect. The order left 21,000 Japanese Canadians out of place and in harm's way. At first, my husband was separated from me and my children and was taken to work at a road camp in Ontario. Me and my babies, however, were taken to an internment quarter called Greenwood. I dreaded this place and often spent most of my days miserable here. Greenwood was primarily a livestock pen, so our internment camp often smelled like urine and cow manure. In order to be reunited with my husband and stay together as a family, we agreed to work together on a sugar beet farm in Alberta. We made sure to listen to the Canadian government, so none of us would be rounded up by the RCMP. During these days, I questioned so many things and often asked myself, why? What did we do to deserve all this pain? We did nothing and yet were subjected to job loss, internment, deportation, and so on. Even our mail was censored and we were denied the right to vote. We felt like prisoners without no home, and often asked ourselves how our government could do this to us, and when this would all end. On April 1st, 1949, we were all free and given back full citizenship rights. We were allowed to turn back home, but nothing felt the same, and our community suffered as much as we did. Later on, our government gave us financial compensation for our injustices that we endured, but no amount of money, nothing could make up for the 4 years that we lost. The internment forever changed my life, and I'll never forget it.
Our final guest is Tanji Sande, speaking about her struggles as a First Nations woman.
We also fought against the marginalization of Indigenous people. We were the ones that negotiated treaties and fought for armed resistance. Us immigrant women were forced into labor workforce. We had jobs that paid so poorly, the lowest wages. I did farm work, and as hard as that labor was, I was not getting paid right. White women were different. From labor to how they act and live as a family, their idea of living is completely different from ours.
Harshini, Ayumi, and Tanji are only 3 of the millions of women in Canada whose experiences have been shaped by their race and class. We hope that you enjoyed this special documentary and has informed Canadians all over the country of the importance of anti-racist feminism and recognizing the different experiences of women. This is Kate Sanderson signing off, and here we go to John Spencer for this week's weather.